The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Market Fantasy. They bring new offer for new customers. Play just $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It's currently Friday afternoon, October 10th, around 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Reichel, Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the semis in Shanghai. We're going to break down the two matchups taking place on Friday morning between Vacherot and Djokovic, as well as Medvedev taking on Rinderknech. Before we get into the actual breakdown of those two matches, though, a brief recap of what happened in the quarters. And before we get into the recap of the quarters, a reminder, you can also find all of our picks and podcasts at one easy location. Check out the SGPN app. Plus, we have a new sport, or I should say a new season of hockey that is starting up again. Check out the NHL action by going to the Hockey Gambling Podcast. Join Ryan and Joel as they break down the biggest games, storylines, awards, and best bets throughout the season. Let it slide. So, starting off with the recap of our picks from the quarterfinals episode. Overall, decent. Did not sweep. Did hit the dog, though. Did lose the lock. For the lock, did lose with the over 4.5 combined breaks between de Minaur and Medvedev. Didn't work out as we ended up seeing de Minaur break 0 times in the entire match. He had chances. I believe he went 0 for 6 on breakpoint chances. Either way, though, Medvedev did serve very well. Thought maybe post, I'd say, marathon against Tien. Thought he might struggle. He did not. He looked great, and he ended up serving very well. Picked up a loss there for the lock. For the dog, nice win. We had the Rune and Vacherot match over half a tiebreak at plus 104. That got there as the second set did go to a tiebreak. So once again, fine episode. Not great, not terrible. For the actual thoughts for the matches in particular, I thought we did pretty well. We thought that Rune and Vacherot would be a bit of a marathon. Did like the over in that one. Like the tiebreak, of course, and that ended up getting there as Vacherot had the upset. Got the job done there against Rune as he was around a 3-1 underdog, and he got the job done 6-4 in the final set. Rune started cramping, which definitely limited his mobility, and Vacherot held on to win. So nice job by him as a qualifier to make it into the semis of a 1,000 event. Very impressive. We'll see if he can pull off a shocker and beat Djokovic in the semis, but either way, nice upset win by him against a top 15 player in the world. As to the other matchup, though, like Djokovic in straight sets against Bergs, he did end up getting the job done, and he ended up having a nice 7-5 win in the second set. Served for the match, actually, and got broken, but then got the break back, courtesy of a very long, insane defensive rally, and then eventually did hold on to win the match as he ended up winning 7-5. So nice straight set win by him. It has not been an easy path for Djokovic, just based on the results. He has had to struggle a bit in a set here or there, but he's here in the semis, and we'll see if he can get the job done here for the entire event. For the matches, though, that happened on Friday, he had two straightforward matches. Rinderknech pulled off the upset, ended up beating Felix as he won 6-3, 6-4. Served very well as he ended up winning 85% of his first serve points. 65% of his second serve points, was broken 0 times in the entire match. Nice job by him as he ended up winning in straight sets. And Medvedev, once again, did beat de Minaur as a dog as he won 6-4, 6-4. So really not any drama on Friday. The two underdogs won straight in a very straightforward fashion. And because of that, we have a couple of Cinderellas who are now in the semis with Rinderknech and Vacherot. And we'll see if either of them can pull off another shocker, and we'll see if either of them can potentially win the entire thing. Either way, though, before we get into the actual breakdown of the matchups taking place on Saturday, to look at the women's side quickly in Wuhan, you saw Swiatek get destroyed by Paolini as she ended up losing 6-1, 6-2. She was 7-0 lifetime against Paolini, and she won 3 games. Ouch. Swiatek got destroyed. Goff ended up beating Sigmund in straight sets, only lost 3 games, and you saw Sabalenka beat Rybakina in straight sets. I believe Sabalenka now is 20-0 in Wuhan. She's never lost there, so she is definitely the player to beat. And we'll see if either person beats her, but it does feel like Sabalenka has been playing great tennis on a court she usually plays great tennis on, and that's the same story this year. We'll see what happens, but either way, once again, nice job by her. Nice job by Paolini, and whatever that was by Swiatek, she got absolutely destroyed. So there you go. See people mentioning in the comments section, Mr. Wipeout brought it up. I think it was 0-7, actually, lifetime against Iga, and then she destroyed her. Darkinet's asking if Paolini can beat Goff for the 4th time this year. I think it's possible. I mean, anytime Goff serves self-destructs, anybody could beat her. So Paolini's been playing well. couple of marathons, and it's kind of ironic. The easiest match she had in the entire event was against a player she could not beat historically. But I think it's possible. At the end of the day, we know Paolini is not a great server. Goff can be a mess serving. So I think you might end up seeing a pretty competitive matchup full of breaks. So I think it's possible, Dark Knight. I think you definitely can see Paolini pull it off, especially for the price point. If you wanted to segue into women's tennis for a second, Goff's minus 175, despite losing every match against Paolini this season. I think there's value on the dog. I'll put it that way for that one. I see Ginger bringing up the IVs before matches because you have seen Medvedev and other players look a lot sharper after being exhausted the day prior. I think the rest helps. I think IVs probably help as well. I know that during the match against TN, Medvedev was drinking, I believe it was vinegar over the course of the match, and that helped them out too. So I do think that you can take some type of IVs in the middle of matches. You can probably also take some anti-cramping medication like pickle juice and vinegar to help out. It wouldn't surprise me if players were able to take something in between matches, help them recover faster, which of course is not illegal according to the drug testing. Other than that, though, check out the comment section. I see Bing Bong stopping by, mentioning that FAA and Dimmenauer got destroyed. Yes, they did. I didn't really see it coming either. Felix, I think it was really interesting because he was in great form in the U.S. Open. He looked very good in the first couple rounds of this event, but I do always have in the back of my mind the thought that he's going to fall apart. And we saw that on display in the match on Friday. Dimmenauer not winning a set against Medvedev, I thought was pretty surprising too, but Medvedev recovered very well from the cramping issue against TN, and it seemed like he played great. So I get the story, but I did think Dimmenauer would win at least one set in that one. But both were pretty surprising. Didn't really see either result happening the way it did. I did say if Medvedev was going to beat Dimmenauer, he'd have to win the first set. So I was right if you wanted to go for a combo play there for a bigger plus money price. But either way, a nice win for him. Wipeout asking Medvedev's back. He might be. I was asking about him changing coaches for over a year. Finally did. Seems like the new coaches actually know what they're doing. So it seems like he is starting to get somewhat back on track. He lost to TN, of course, though, in the previous event. He almost lost to TN earlier in this event, too. Not going to say he's all the way back, but you know what? He does look a lot better based on the eye test, and we'll see if he can get to an ATP final for the first time in a while. Chance to win his first title in a couple of years. We'll see if he gets the job done there. But I think for all intents and purposes, Medvedev does appear to be back for the most part. Anyway, I see Matt asking what to take before shows. Nothing. Usually a nap, occasionally a shower. But no, I don't take any PEDs before the show. So sorry if you thought I was, but if an USADA agent came through like it was old UFC, I'd pass. So there you go. I see Adrian mentioning that the pickle juice stuff does work. He does work in Arizona. It helps with the cramping. Yeah, the salt helps out. Same thing with vinegar. So I do think that could be definitely what is used by players in a bunch of different sports moving forward to help deal with cramping. Anyway, nothing else to really talk about. Thinking if there's anything else worth saying. I know Tiafoe shut down his season. He officially ended any hopes of playing any other events the rest of the year. Honestly, the right call. He had a pretty terrible season. I think he was around 500. My thoughts on Tiafoe, well documented. But you know what? I think he made the right call. He was awful in the Davis Cup. He was awful in the events after the Davis Cup. Sometimes, instead of traveling throughout Asia, just pull the plug and reset. That's my advice for Tiafoe and for some other players, and it ended up working out. We thought Medvedev might do the same thing. Medvedev, after having a couple of really bad choke jobs, we thought might shut himself down for the last couple months. Instead, he hired a new coach, got himself back on track, and maybe he could win a 1,000 title. But Tiafoe said, you know what, I'm good, get me out of here. And after he lost to Hanfmann, he said, this might be rock bottom for me. Time to regroup. So you know what, good for Tiafoe to make that decision. My thoughts on him are documented. I don't think he's very good. I think he's a very overrated player. But you know what, mentally and physically, he probably could have used the reset. So we'll see him back again in 2026. Anyway, getting into the matchups for the semis. Before we get into those matchups, reminder brought to you by our sponsor, which is MyBookie.ag. Using to bet on football, using to bet on college football. They have tennis, they have baseball, they have a prop holder, second to none, model simple. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime. Use crypto for deposit payouts, and you sign up for your new account. Use code SGPN for a special 100% back bonus $500 from new customers with the G promo code SGPN. We're also brought to by Novig, which is the number one prediction market for sports in America. You'll be getting some great prices too if you go there for different sides, totals, etc. Available in 35 plus states, so check it out to see if it's available in your state. Download the Novig app, and when you do, you can use the promo code that we have, SGPN. And when you do so with the promo code, spend $5, you get $50 in bonus funds. Get on the action with Novig, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the quarters. Time to go on into the two semifinal matchups taking place in Shanghai on Saturday. So for the first matchup, you have Djokovic as a massive favorite, minus 700, give or take. You have Vacherat at around plus 500. For the spread, you have minus 4.5 for Djokovic, plus 4.5 for Vacherat, and the over-under is at 21.5 games. For the set spread, Joker straight sets, minus 240. Vacherat to win a set is plus 180. The over 2.5 sets is plus 250. So, by the way, just to actually backtrack a second, I forgot to recap how he did in the quarters and stuff like that, so I'll do that right now. So, for the actual quarters, sorry about that, but I'll get into it now. First quarter, ended up losing. We ended up having de Minaur. You could have hedged if you wanted to. Didn't get there, as he ended up losing to Medvedev. Second quarter didn't work out either. We had Musetti and Lehechka. They both ended up losing. Third quarter, though, we had Djokovic at 175. That got there. So we already have Djokovic in our back pocket to win the quarter, which he did, and to win the event. And fourth quarter, we ended up losing as we had Sinner and Fritz. That didn't work out. For the outrights, though, we have one person left. We have Djokovic at 9-1. Great spot. Once again, he's minus 700 in the semis. So he'll be favored in both matches. So we'll see if he gets the job done. Hopefully he does. de Minaur at 16-1 kind of hurt as he ended up losing to Medvedev as a pretty decent favorite, and Lehechka ended up losing to Rinderknech. But we still have one outright left with a good price. At Djokovic is expected to coast in this matchup, and he's expected to potentially win the event. But either way, 9-1, really can't complain. Getting back to the actual picks again for the semis. So Joker is expected to roll. And the only options we really have involve backing Vacherat in some capacity. If you want to go for Djokovic at minus 4.5 plus 105, I understand your argument, but for the actual path so far, he's not been that dominant, Djokovic. In fact, he's had a couple of marathon sets. I'll point out he dropped the set against Hanfmann, dropped the set to Munar, ended up beating Berg 7-5 in the second set, and he ended up beating Cilic with a breaker in the first round. So Joker's actually had a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 5 straight matches, including the U.S. Open against Alcaraz. So you make the argument that Joker's been winning, but not comfortably, and Vacherat's serving stats speak for themselves. He's tough to break. So if Vacherat's able to serve well, and if he can potentially fight off a couple of deuces from Djokovic's return game, he might get to a breaker in this one. Maybe he could end up even winning a set. Will I pick him to win a set? Probably no. I think that you're looking at Djokovic probably winning in straight sets here. I feel like Bergs mentioned it in the post-match handshake at the net, where he said, I have to stop idolizing you. And I feel like that kind of sums up the issue that a lot of people have run into against Djokovic, against Nadal, and Federer. There's a sense of aura there, where as soon as you step foot on the court against either of those three guys, you lost. Because you knew going in, I probably can't beat this guy. And once that gets into your head, you're not going to be as sharp as you need to be to actually win. And my concern is Vacherat's had a great run, Cinderella style, went through qualifying, had a pretty lucky outcome in the that was Rinderknech, I mean. He made it through, beating Draxl in the final round of qualifying in 3, beat De Gere, beat Bublik, beat Makic in a retirement, and then he ended up beating Griekspoor and beat Rune. He has gone to a deciding set in 3 of his last 4, and the one exception was the retirement by Makic. The point is, though, he's beating good players, but nobody's Djokovic. So I do think you'd argue mentally getting to a semi in shocking fashion is one thing, but getting there and seeing Djokovic across from you, knowing you have to win, is a completely different animal. So do I think Vacherat brings it? I think he will for at least the set. Do I think he wins? No. I think Joker has the overall, of course, skills to frustrate Vacherat. I think that mentally could play a factor where Vacherat goes down early again. Maybe he ends up not really having his best, I'd say, effort, and maybe he rolls over. We'll see. But I do think the aura and the, I'd say, element of invincibility from Djokovic on his opponents can definitely wear on the Cinderella runners when they do make respectable runs. I think Djokovic wins in straight sets, so you got to get creative with how you bet it. I don't mind the team total over, though, for Djokovic, who I said before has at a 7-5 or 7-6 in 5 straight matches. Vacherat has been serving very well, and I think you're looking at what could be at least one set full of holds, and that is a possibility for the event so far. To break down the stats here, Vacherat has been serving very, very well, and he is holding at, I believe, north of a 90% threshold. So with that being said, I think you might see a pretty competitive set. I think Djokovic wins. Don't mind the team total, though. Djokovic is holding serve in 94% of his service games in the event. Vacherat's at 91%. I see good serving happening. I think Vacherat might come to the net to shorten points. Joker has gotten broken at least one time in a decent amount of matches recently. Vacherat maybe can steal a break, maybe even a set. I don't see that happening, though. But I'll go for the Djokovic team total over. I think he does win in straight sets, but it's minus 240. Pretty tough to actually find value backing Djokovic in that market. Anyway, I'm moving on to the next matchup. You have one that's supposed to be closer, but still a decent favorite. Medvedev's minus 300. You have Rinderknech at around plus 250 for the spread. Minus 3.5 for Medvedev at plus 122. Plus 3.5 for Rinderknech at minus 142. The over-under in games is at 23.5. The over is plus 100. The under is minus 120. Set spread, Medvedev straight sets is around even money. Rinderknech to win his set is around minus 120. The over 2.5 sets is plus 136. They have one meeting between them. It was very dated, but Medvedev did win. It was in the U.S. Open about 3 years ago, and Medvedev did end up winning in 3. So very straightforward, but it was very dated, and the point is Medvedev was still in peak form at that point, and he ended up winning 6-2, 7-5, 6-3. Now, Rinderknech has been playing great tennis. He came to the net a lot as the match went on against Felix, and it worked out. He might stick with the same actual game plan against Medvedev, who we know does have the deep return position, as he's been looking very sharp so far in the event. He ended up getting lucky in the first round. Medvedev ended up dealing with the heat poorly, had to retire, and Rinderknech got a retirement victory after losing the first set. Beat Mickelson, beat Zverev in 3, beat Lehechka, and beat Felix. A pretty good path so far, especially the last 3 matches. Zverev, Lehechka, and Felix has only dropped 1 set over the last 4 matches against Zverev, so he's been playing great tennis. For Medvedev, he's been playing very well as well. I know, of course, his body betrayed him against Tien in the match in Beijing. He was looking very sharp, then he fell apart, but he beat Zverev in that event in straight sets, beat Fekina in straight sets, beat Norrie in straight sets. Showed up here, ended up winning in straight sets in 3 of the first 4 matches, and beat Tien, got revenge in 3. Could have won in straight sets as well, so he was playing great tennis for the last couple of weeks. Now, I will point out the path has been tougher, I think, in my opinion, for Rinderknech, but beating de Minaur, Tien, who's kind of owned him historically, and Fekina is nothing to scoff at. Now, the issue that you might run into for Medvedev is when will he revert back to being a clown, or is this who he is? Did the new coaching staff, I'd say, revitalize his career, and this will be the Medvedev that we see moving forward? Now, I think that Rinderknech's serve and his volley skills can frustrate Medvedev, and Medvedev's really not faced off against many good servers in the event. He beat a couple of really bad servers, actually. De Minaur not very good at serving. Tien's the same story. Fekina's the same story, and he had a qualifier in the first round, is also a really bad server. So, different, I'd say, obstacle. He's got to deal with it for this one because he's against a good server, and that could potentially cause an issue for his return game. But Medvedev, I think, will get enough returns in play to frustrate Rinderknech. He's been playing very well, but I think we'd agree the longer the rally goes in this matchup, the better off Medvedev will be. Medvedev's been serving well, too. Think it'll be a very close matchup based on the actual sets. Think you might get a breaker or 2 in there. Am I picking Rinderknech to win? I am not. I think he's played well. I think Medvedev's been playing at a level that I think Rinderknech is going to have to really up it in terms of consistency. And I just think that Medvedev, with the rally tolerance, will eventually extract enough errors from Rinderknech to get the job done. I think Medvedev wins. I think maybe a breaker in there. Now, Medvedev's team total is 13. It's at minus 140, so it is a bit, I'd say, expensive. 13.5, I'm not interested in. If you want to argue it goes 3 sets, I don't hate that angle at around plus 136. However, I think Medvedev wins. I think it's been a great run for Rinderknech, but I do think Medvedev has found a certain gear that he's been lacking for the last couple of years. And the fact is, with his return game, with his rally tolerance, it's really not a great matchup for Rinderknech. Now, I am aware that these serve and volley tactics can work out to neutralize the deep return position. But Medvedev's passing shots are still very good. I do think he'll be able to get a lot of rackets on serves with his length and his frame. I think you're looking at a bad matchup for Rinderknech. I think Medvedev's going to win personally. I will acknowledge, though, it's been a great run by Rinderknech. He can pull this off. I'm not going to fully write him off for dead. I think he will lose, but I did not know that he had this level a couple months ago. So props to him for showing a certain gear I didn't know he had, but I think the run comes to an end on Saturday. So I'm going with chalk, unfortunately, for the lack of drama. I got Djokovic against Medvedev in the final, and we'll see what happens. But for the sake of betting on this matchup, I don't mind the potential team total over for Medvedev at 13, but it's 140. It's pretty expensive. Tie break makes sense. A bit juicy there, but I get it. I mean, 22.5 games, though, is minus 155. Not interested. Plus 4.5 games for Rinderknech is minus 300. It's really not a great match for actual, I'd say, betting for value, unless you find a prop or something you like. But I do think that Medvedev is going to win. That's kind of my thoughts there. But he's minus 300. So take that as you may. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the two matchups in the semis in Shanghai on Saturday. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. So before we get into the actual lock and dog, reminder that brought to you by our sponsor, Arnold Fantasy. Play Fantasy Pick'em. Chance to win 500 times your entry. Pick higher or lower on player stats, whether it involves tennis, baseball, football, college football. Check it out. A bunch of sports options. You can mix and match if you want to. They also have a new offer deal with us. So if you spend $5 when you make a new account, get $100 bonus funds. When you sign up at Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They're off to a great start in college football and the NFL with picks and props. Went 8-2 last week on passing prop overs for week 5. See if they can do it again in week 6. They also have a nice giveaway. We can catch prize every week. So check that out just for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets of any type from the same from any model that you build, and you can win $1K. So once again, it's free to do. Check it out. Use promo code SGPN though. Promo code SGPN25 actually. When you download the Rhythm app for a quarter first month, download Rhythm. Use promo code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the two matchups on Saturday. Time going into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I will go back to the Djokovic match, and you know what? I'm going to go with the team total. Give me the team total over 12.5 for Djokovic at minus 132. That is on FanDuel. Djokovic has had a bunch of marathon sets. Each of his last 5 matches have had a 7-5 or a 7-6. So naturally, Djokovic has gone over this team total in every match of this event. So whether he drops a set, whether he wins a 7-5, either way, point is I do think this team total is a reasonable price, and I'm going to take it. 7 of Vatras's last 8 matches have not ended in straight sets. He has been very crafty. He's been dangerous, and I do think his serve and also net skills and touch can keep Djokovic uncomfortable. I think Djokovic will win, but I do think he can do enough holding-wise to actually force a breaker or a 7-5. Mentioned the stats before, but I'll say it again. Djokovic has been holding serve at a 94% rate in the event. Vatras holding serve at a 91% rate. I think you might see a pretty competitive set or two, but either way, I like the team total over. I think it's a way of getting Djokovic to win, or in theory, lose in a marathon. But he can win in straight sets with the similar script that we've seen for the last couple of matchups, where he does have a close set that gets him over if he wins a set, basically automatically. Good enough for me. Give me Djokovic team total over as my lock for the show. For the dog, I'm going to go back to the last match between Medvedev and Rinderknech. I am going to go with the Medvedev straight set play at plus 100. I know that Rinderknech has been good. I get Medvedev is still in the back of our minds. Maybe we're still suffering from PTSD from Medvedev falling apart, but he's been in very good form. Ended up only dropping 1 set in the entire event. And I was concerned about his fitness against de Minaur, and he played a great match. De Minaur is a great returner, one of the best in the entire world, and he got broken 0 times. So I do think he should serve well. Former champion here. He's comfortable in Shanghai, and you are looking at Medvedev, who I think is obviously the better returner and rallier than Rinderknech. I think there are paths for Medvedev to lose a set here. I will admit it, but I think even money, taking the much better rallier, a guy who I think is objectively speaking the better player. It's been a great Cinderella run for Rinderknech, but I think plus money is plus, or even money is even money. I like the price. I'll take that as my dog for the show. So once again, the lock and dog for the semis. The lock's going to be on Djokovic team total over 12.5 games at -132. For the dog, I'm going to go with Medvedev straight sets at +100. It's going to wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the final in Shanghai. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.